I've been going to Chitina since I was 7 years old. I caught my first king salmon. My dad might be able to fill in the details if he's selected as the storyteller later this afternoon or evening. And caught my first king salmon at 9 years old at Salmon Point, and been going to Chitina pretty much at every opportunity since then.
And I'm an Alaska transplant from Minnesota. Love to dip net on the Chitina, and I've been here since 1982, and I'm recently retired school teacher.
And I'm still teaching middle school in Fairbanks here. Linda and I met each other about 16 years ago,
right,
when I transferred to Randy Smith Middle School. I was a science teacher, and she was a gym teacher at that time.
So we got to talking one day, and we figured out that we both really, really love to dip net at Chitina. And being that Kat was lifelong Alaskan, I knew she knew what she was doing. So I was like, hey, we should get together and we should do this dip net thing together. It would be really fun.
Yeah, I've got this the system for looking at the weather, checking out the fishing reports and everything. So I saw there was going to be a really good opportunity to go do some really good fishing at Chitina. So gave Linda a call, and
it was like, right on, we're ready to go. Got my gear, took it over to Kat's, loaded up her truck, and off to Chitina we went.
Yeah, it's a beautiful 7-hour drive down there. It was a gorgeous day. Sky was sapphire blue. The mountains were out. You couldn't ask for a better day in interior Alaska.
So we're driving, and we get down to Chitina about 3, 4 in the afternoon. And our plan was that we were going to probably camp at O'Brien Creek, and then go out really early, catch one of the first boats out, and then head out from there.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with Chitina, this is not sitting in a lawn chair with your line in the water sipping a beer. This is salmon fish. This is to salmon fishing what the deadliest catch is to crabbing, okay? This is the confluence of the Chitina River and the Copper River, two glacial-fed rivers coming together and then cutting through some mountains between the Mount St. Elias Wrangell National Park and the Talkeetna Mountains on the other side. So the best part, or the best place that a lot of people choose to fish is right in this canyon. It's very narrow, very steep sides. The river is running really fast. It's kind of like putting chocolate milk into a whirlpool and tossing in a Cuisinart. The river is what you call a muddy river. There's a lot of silt and debris and everything floating around in it, so you can't see the fish and they can't see you. The generally accepted technique is to get a dip net, which is about a 3-foot wide basket net on the end of an 8, 10, 12, 14-foot aluminum or fiberglass pole, however much you think you can handle. The water is running very swiftly. It is not easy fishing, and you definitely don't want to take anybody down who doesn't have a pretty good idea of what they're getting into. A couple techniques for actually catching the fish. One is to stand on a sandbar or alongside the river and actually sweep your net down the river. The fish are swimming upriver to spawn, of course, into one of their freshwater streams further up towards the Alaska Range. So the idea is to get the salmon into the net, feel the fish hit the net, and then somehow pull it out in time before the fish has a chance to get out and realize what's going on. That's the hard part. You really have to have a lot of upper body strength for that one. Another way is to get a boat, motor up the river, stick your net in, drift down with the current, catch the fish that way. A lot of people who choose to go into the canyon, though, that's typically thought to be the best fishing, is you can either walk down the west side where there's an old railroad bed, walk down the west side, there's a trail, walk down to the river, and then get onto an outcropping in a rocky eddy where the water is swirling around back. The fish love to take advantage of this little free ride upstream there, and it's a lot easier fishing because all you do is you just stick your net in, the basket's already going upstream, and then you just have to wait for the fish to hit it and come up. What Linda and I decided to do, though, was take a charter, and this is the Cadillac way to do Chitina salmon dip netting, is you get on a boat, they take you to a place where they know the fish are being caught, they show you exactly where to put your net, and when you're done, they pick the fish up and literally take them right back to your truck. It's the best way to do it.
So that's what our plan was, to go with the charter. And as we were sitting there looking over our gear, and you got to put your gear in, you got to put your gear off to the side.
It's a first come, first served basis.
Right.
Yeah.
So you put your gear down so that you've got your spot reserved. And as we were doing this, the boat came up, and Mark, the charter driver, was there and greeted us and said, hey, what's going on? And we said, well, we'd like to go out tomorrow, and so here's our gear, and there's 2 of us. And he said, well, I've got a deal for you guys. He said, I can take you out tonight. There's a spot out there, beautiful campsite, nice and flat. You'll have nice opportunity to fish on one side, plenty of space to when you string your fish to put them in. He goes, so would you like to do that? And we're like,
heck yeah.
yeah,
I mean, this
we're
is
going,
great.
man.
Overnight.
Right, so that would be fun. So he said, but there's just one catch to this. How are you guys afraid of bears? Bears? And we're like, well, no. What do you mean? And he says,
we're tough Alaska women here.
Yeah, it's like, no. And we didn't, I was thinking, like what proximity, but never bothered to ask that question, right? So he's like, well, where I'm going to drop you off, there's been 2 adolescent grizzlies that have been running around in that area. And they've just kind of been looking over the fish and everything, but they're not aggressive. They haven't seemed to be aggressive, but there are grizzlies on, they've been sighted at that spot. So we were like...
Yeah, we're middle school teachers, for crying out loud. How bad can it be?
Grizzlies? Yeah, so we're good with it. So he said... Sure, we'd love to go. And he said, okay, come back in a half an hour, and I'll take you up the river. So we got our gear, and we got there in an hour, and he put us in the boat, and we start to motor up the river.
Down the river.
Or down the river toward the end of the fishery. And our particular spot was at the very end of the fishery on the east side of the river. Now, the west side of the river is where O'Brien Creek, Haley Creek are located, and like Kat said, there's this, the trail you can go up, you can get on a road. If something happens, you can get out pretty easily. On the east side of the river, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's just, you look back, and it's cliff. It's just straight cliffs. So as we're going down that river, too, I'm thinking, there's not really a lot of spots that the charters drop people off at. And usually they're just like mounds of, just the rock. The rock, and then you're there. So we got down there, and sure enough, it was a great spot. There was off to the side, as you're looking, there's this great flat rock spot where it was like, okay, our tent can go right there. There's the rocks, the outcropping of the rocks, and the eddy is right there. We can start fishing right away. And there was like this sandy shore, like a little bit of a bay area. It was like, great deal.
It was beautiful. It was about
beautiful.
the size of this stage. It was great.
It was
by
just
Chittenden
perfect,
standards.
yeah. But a lot harder to get around on since there's rocks all over, and just like movement was very much
Yeah, like
restricted.
about where the curtains are here, that's where the cliff was, okay? So we had our spot, and then where you are, that's where the river was. So that was it. We're here.
But along that cliff, there was a place to rope off.
Oh, yeah, roping off. The other thing you have to do at Chittenden, as if we're not having enough fun already, is you have to rope off, okay? That means you take a rope that's probably at least a ½ inch in diameter. You don't want to do it any less. And you literally need to tie yourself either to a rock or a tree or something sturdy, because if you catch a log going downstream or a couple of king salmon like I've seen some people do, it's a 50-50 chance as to who's going in the river first or who's coming out. So you always want to have something to back you up to keep you being the one going in the river.
So we roped up. We got all our gear out. We're really fired up. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day. It's July.
First week in July, I think.
First weekend in July. So we've got all this daylight, and we're just pumped. So we could fish forever, because we're just really excited to be there and starting to fish. So we get all set up, roped up, and we start to fish, and they're hitting, and we're getting them, and we're getting about 6 an hour. Yeah.
5, 6. We're getting upwards of 10 and 12 sometimes. So this is good fishing by Chittenden standards.
Right. So we're, it's like, wow, we're going to get our limit here. This is really great. The fish are running. And then we see this little skiff come down across the river just past us. And these guys are in there. And they're like fishing out of this really tenuous looking boat. It was a real sketchy little boat.
It's a Harding Lake type boat. It's not a Chittenden boat.
Yeah, and so they see us and they wave and, hey, how are you guys doing? Are you catching fish? And we're like, yeah. And sometimes we'd have one and we could hold it up, and they're giving us the thumbs up, and they're fishing too, and they're saying they're getting about the same amount, and they're checking in and out with us. So that continues to happen because
They
they
motor
go,
up, they drift back, motor up, drift back, and we're
Yeah.
talking back and forth and everything. That went on for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So then they come along and they go, we're done. We're calling it a night. You girls have good evening. And they kind of wave to us, and off they went.
About a half hour later, this boat with no motor and one guy with a paddle leaning out over the side, paddling frantically, comes drifting by. The guy who's not paddling is going, "Send help! Send help!" And we're like, "We can't help. We don't have a boat. We don't even have a cell phone. We don't have one of those satellite emergency things."
And they go down really quickly. And the last thing we said were, we're overnight. We're staying overnight. And kind of waved to them. And that was it. So off they go toward Cordova.
100 miles downstream, 60 miles as a crow flies. I measured it out this afternoon, 100 river miles with a couple lakes in between. So this was not going to be a nice trip for them. Luckily, we were able to keep visual contact on them. So as they drifted on down, I'm looking, and sure enough, they were able to get onto a gravel bar or sandbar or something. They weren't on the shore. They were still in about knee-deep water, but at least they weren't going any further downstream.
Right.
Which
so
was
we knew
nice.
they were safe.
They were going to be
At
safe.
least they were safe. Yeah. So
Safe.
yeah. So we keep fishing, and we got our eye on them, and we're fishing, and we're still pulling fish in.
Nothing we can do.
Yeah. So, and then we hear a motor. And on the other side of the river, coming out by Haley Creek, we see this boat. And then Kat.
This is the only opportunity these guys are going to have for the next 10 or 12 hours to get rescued. So I quick untie myself, I rip off my life jacket, I run over to our gear, I grab our flashlight, I'm blowing on my emergency whistle, and I'm just making an absolute scene of myself, jumping up and down on this little bit of sandbar we've got going on, just trying to get their attention.
I was fishing. So I love to fish. I will not be deterred. So all of a sudden, the boat turns, and they are coming our way. So as the boat's turning and Kat is down on the shoreline, and I'm still on the rocks, the boat turns, and I see these guys point to the shore, and as I look, here comes an adolescent grizzly bear running along the shoreline less than 5 feet from Kat. And
I'm oblivious.
And she's like facing the boat, and the bear's coming this direction, and I went, "Kat, bear." And the bear kind of, I think it saw her, it was close enough. It was like, and as it looked, it made a quick jog up right through where we eventually put our tent, through there, and up the game trail, up on the cliff.
He went up the cliff.
Went up.
We couldn't see.
And so
Linda yelled, "Kat, there's a bear!" And I'm already making myself big and loud. I can't do anymore.
Right.
So at which point I kind of lose all pretense of being a tough Alaska woman. I scream like a little girl, and I go running over to the rock to be with Linda, because I know, safety in numbers here.
And I'm like, "Don't run, please don't run. Just don't run toward me, So she gets up there. So she gets up there, and in the meantime, these guys in the boat, they think we've called them over there because there's a bear there.
And we want to get away from it.
Yeah, and we want to get away. And then when we explain to them, no, that's not why we called you over. Right down the river, there's 2 guys in a boat that really need your help because their boat's dead, and, you're kind of like their rescue right now. So they were like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." And so they said, "You guys good?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're fine." So we go back to fishing.
We go back to, what else can you do at that point? So sure enough, those guys went down, the 3 of them, met up with the boat. Everybody went to shore, redistributed the fish and the gear and everything else, put everybody in the front boat. I guess they had all their gear in the dead boat, and they come very slowly back up the river towards us, and they start to pull in.
Right. So they start to pull in, and they have it in their heads. These guys, they're like, "Okay, these guys that were down there, they're going to stay overnight, and you guys are coming back with us to the creek."
And I'm like, "Whoa, time out, wait a minute.
No.
We paid our money, it's beautiful weather, there's great fishing.
And we're fishing, and now we're yelling. We're a little bit more aware. We're yelling, "Hey, bear! Hey, bear!" So we're not like, we're watching.
It's
There
like-
was nothing there.
It's like,
So
we're like, we're good. You guys just, we'll do this tonight. You go ahead. We'll be up tomorrow, and if we're not, well, you know where we'll be.
right. So the one guy says, he goes, "Well, do you want a firearm?" And I said, "Sure."
It's sounding a pretty good idea at this
Yeah, and look, I don't know anything about guns. I don't know what came over me. It was like it felt good to say, "Sure, we'll take your gun." Sure. So when I said sure,
Yeah. Now Linda's looking at me like, Kat, you were in the military. You know everything about guns, right? And I'm like, the most dangerous thing they gave to me in the Navy was a computer, for crying out loud.
so when I said sure, 5 guys in a boat all jump up simultaneously, no joke, and they rip off their jackets, and they are packing. They've got ammo strapped across them. They've got a sidearm.
They've got machetes. Crazy.
They are like, and they're arguing. They can have my gun. No, they're going to take my gun. Here, no. And this one guy in the back of the boat, he's like, "I've got the best point and shoot, and they're going to take this gun." And he like kind of walked to the front of the boat, and they brought their boat into the shoreline. And he was so excited about leaving us his gun, he jumped off the boat, missed the shore, went into about here, thighs in the water.
His friends are pulling him back in.
Yeah, to get him settled. And he's like all the time looking at his gun, and
This thing is the size of a small baseball bat. I mean,
yeah, the fish
kind
bats.
we used to kill fish with.
Yeah, it was like that long. It was like, holy mackerel, it's just. So they give us this gun and they're telling Kat.
And they're showing me, how to do this. Here's the safety. Here's
Right.
how, and everything like, got this. All right,
And
we're
I'm
tough
just
Alaska
letting
women.
her do it because she's military and I'm not.
Yeah.
I secured it. She can use it now. It's fine.
So the guys, okay, didn't take our name, didn't take our number, anything else. They said, okay, well, see you tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, you can return this gun. We're just below the bridge, up on the main road there, white motorhome. Just drop it off tomorrow morning on your way out. And we're like,
Yep.
okay, bye, have fun.
No name or anything, and
Nope.
all of that's being told to us as they're like going out and we're waving goodbye, and that was it. So then we have
Then we
this
have the
gun.
discussion.
Yeah. So we have this gun, and we fished a little while longer, and then decided, well, we're getting a little punchy. It was getting late, so we needed to get some sleep, and we
Yep.
could finish up with our limit in the morning.
Yeah, we had about 60 fish at the time, and it's like, okay, I'll go set up the tent. Linda kept fishing. All right, so I go set the tent up, and as I'm setting it up, it's like, how can I stake our claim anymore? So I go ahead and I start marking the territory around the tent, if you know what I mean, doggy style.
I had no idea that was going on. None. I was clueless to that.
So being again that it's, pretty much daylight 24/7, being up north here in Alaska, it's about 11:30 at night before we decide we're tired, we're starting to, get a little uncoordinated. Let's go ahead and just call it a night, throw our
Right.
sleeping bags out. We had no dinner that night. We didn't even open up so much as a granola bar. It was strictly
it was
a water.
just water,
night.
water. We were like,
Water.
that's it,
Yep.
Made sure that our fish were all secure and everything,
Yep.
and so
Took off our stinky clothes, which are all totally covered in fish slime at this point. Like the whole place doesn't reek of salmon, okay? And
Yeah.
just leave our clothes and anything that we don't absolutely need, and we go shivering over to the tent and climb into our sleeping bags.
And then we have a discussion. It was like, Kat's like, let's get the gun in the tent. And I'm like, no way. No way. That was a deal breaker. It was like, no way. The gun, no, we don't need that
Yeah,
in
I
the
saw
tent.
Linda wasn't going to budge on this one, so we did come to a compromise. It was going to be on my side of the tent. I still don't know why. Underneath the fly out there, just outside the door, in case a bear comes in. Like, I'm really going to stick my hand out to get the gun to shoot the bear in our own tent. So,
But it was secure.
and it was
It was
close.
secure, yeah. So it was all good.
All right.
So
So we say goodnight, and Linda's head hits the pillow. 30 seconds later, she is absolutely sawing logs. I love you, Linda, but honey. At which point I started thinking about it, and it's like, if we're going to get mauled or eaten by a bear tonight, I might as well do it on a good night's sleep rather than sit up, listening for a bear, waiting for the bear to attack. So I stuck my earplugs in, and I'm no shrinking violet when it comes to snoring either. I don't even remember my head hitting the pillow. But anyway, it was lights out probably until, 5, 6 o'clock the next morning?
Yep. Got up, got dressed, finished off our limit, and there came Mark motoring up to get us. And so he pulls in, he asks thumbs up, we give him a thumbs up that we got all our fish, and he comes into shore. And as he pulls into shore, we're transferring our fish into the buckets. Loading up the gear, cleaning up the spot. And then we say to him, oh, by the way, Mark, you need to do something with this. And we hand him this gun.
He gives us this look like, where'd you get that?
Yeah. So he looks at it and, he's like, takes the cartridge or the magazine or whatever it is. He takes it out of the gun. And there's people in the boat that he's dropping off to. And they're like looking, their eyes are kind of big, like going, whoa. Those women have a gun.
Tough Alaska women.
And so we're like, at this point, it's like, yeah, we have a gun. You have fish. First of all, we have fish, and we have a gun. So anyway,
we're not scared of bears.
No. Because we marked the territory. So it's all good.
They were scared of us, so yeah, okay.
So we get back in the boat, and we get over to O'Brien Creek, and we get out, and we're just thinking about all the weirdness that has happened on this trip. It's just like one little weird event right after another. But we've had a great time, and we get our fish all settled in, and we go off down to Salmon Point.
Had no problem finding the guy with his
there it is.
With his motorhome, sitting around the fire, drinking a beer and everything like that. Hand the gun over to him, said, "Thank you very much, sir." He checked to make sure that it was all okay, and we never did find his name or get his name or number or anything like that.
He's like, "Did you girls have to use that?" And we went, no, we didn't see anything. We were all good.
Nope, we're good.
So gave him his gun. And then driving away, thought, only in Alaska can men fight and argue over giving you their gun, giving a woman their gun, and not even leaving a name, a number, an address, nothing. Just, here's the gun.
So wherever you are, sir, thank you very much for your trust and confidence in us, and hopefully we'll have a chance to return the favor to somebody, just not with a gun. Okay.
Right. And that's our story, and we're sticking to it.